watching the Vision channel. Well, Habakkuk 2 and 2 says, write the vision and make it plain, so they that see it can take it and run with it. This is the channel where faith and vision collide to bring forth a manifestation. You're watching the Vision channel.
I would like to welcome you to our broadcast tonight on Covenant Keepers. I know that tonight is going to be presidential. You know, God never gives us topics of discussion without there being an answer, without this being a resolve to people's problems. And I truly believe that the problems that people have, that God will give answers. If tonight you're watching tonight by way of the Vision channel, or if you're listening tonight by the way of Spirit Radio, I think that tonight is going to be a night for you. You know, our topic tonight is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? And I think the challenge with us is that we get excited about the moment, about just the whole idea of getting married. But sometimes we don't know that there's going to be challenges that follow after you get married. So after there's a great time, there's times of trouble. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 said, there is a time and a season for every purpose under heaven. There's a time to be born, there's a time to cry, there's a time to die, there's a time to laugh, there's a time to plant, there's a time to pluck up. So these are times and there are seasons. And often we stop valuing, is it worth it? We stop thinking about what the issue or what our marriage is worth because what does not work. I'll say that one more time. Oftentimes we lose the value or seeing the value in the relationship. We stop thinking about what is worth because of what does not work. And so we are deterred by seasons because we don't understand what takes place when marriage happens. And I think this has been the challenge and this has been the struggle, is that you've come into a season that you don't like. You come into a season of hardship. And I know what people say, when I've been going through this for 3 years, I've been going through this for 2 years, but how long is a season? Now, we normally equate seasons to like the 4 seasons we have. But those 4 seasons equal up to 12 months. It equals 1 year. So we try to associate a season of our life and we try to predicate it towards time. We try to put our timetable and our stamp of approval on it to say what is good, what is bad based on the season. So we try to leave relationships based on the season that we're in. And this has become a challenge in the body of Christ, because when we run into difficult seasons, we tell ourselves that this is not worth it. Now, you're going to have to stay with us tonight because we're going to talk about spirituality. We're going to talk about things not just from a natural perspective. We're going to talk about things that are spiritual. So when spiritual things happen, what do you do when spiritual things happen? I'll explain it this way. If you tried everything you did in the natural, you talk nice, you cook food, you wash clothes, you've cleaned the house, but there seems to be, there's a break in communication. It seems or appears that you're not eye to eye. The finances is not right. You're trying to manage the finances, and all of a sudden there is a shortage in your finances, and you don't know why. So let me explain to you how some things work in spirituality. Because the first thing that comes to my mind for someone that's watching, is you and your spouse don't see eye to eye. Mm-hmm. So there's a break in communication. That's the first thing that I hear in my spirit, that this thing that's transpiring and taking place, that you and your spouse do not see eye to eye, and there is a break in the communication. There's a break in it, and you are not communicating properly. So he goes his way and you go your way, and you speak to each other, but there is no place of agreement in that relationship because there's a break in communication, because you have your mindset and that person have his mindset. So the house is divided. Let me tell you how war works. War works based on the house being divided. So if the enemy can come into your house and cause confusion, this is where you're going to have to be mature. Tonight is going to be a night, it's going to be rated M. That rated M is for mature. So tonight you're going to need to be mature. So if you're sensitive to the content that's getting ready to be shared, we're advising you that you have to be mature. It's rated M for mature tonight. Rated M for mature because you have to be mature if you're going to be married. I'll explain it this way. When an enemy comes into a house, please hear this. If an enemy comes into a house and division is there, in order for there to be division in that house, the enemy had to conquer both people. Because in order for there to be division, you both had to agree. So one of the terms that we normally use when it comes to marriage, can we agree to disagree? Mm-hmm. So disagreeing means spiritually the house has been divided. Mm-hmm. So you'll try to settle it with a disagreement. Can we agree to disagree? Mm-hmm. But you've agreed to disagree, not understanding that disagreement brought division, and now the house is in jeopardy. And one thing we have to learn with communication, you have to learn how to discuss without getting disgusted. and this is where you're going to have understanding, patience, love, and still honor the person and respect the person, even if the person is not respecting and honoring you. That's why I say tonight is a night of, you're going to have to be mature. When the enemy comes into a house, the Bible said he must first bind the strong man. That means if you are the head of your house, he comes to bind the person that should have the spiritual eye to be able to see what's coming in the house. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you what arguing, what fights, and what fusses do in a relationship and in a house. Okay. The Bible said, I want you to see this. The Bible said, wherever 2 or 3 are gathered in God's name, God is right there in the midst. I want you to hear this now. God is in the midst where 2 or 3 are gathered in his name. Now, we're not talking about some type of church setting, because even though your wife may have taken your last name, but marriage, the name that's on marriage is God's name. Because it's God that instituted the first marriage. Mm-hmm. So what happens with fights and fusses in a house, if me and my wife argue, so now, okay, why are we arguing in the first place? Why are we arguing? So what happens in a house, what people don't tell you in marriage counseling, that if you and your wife do not see the eye to eye, the first thing that happens in a disagreement is words fly. Mm-hmm. And what happens when words fly, doors open. And we haven't been taught when it comes to relationships and when it comes to marriage that doors will be open in your house. This is how the enemy come in. So you get angry because there's been a disagreement. According to Ephesians chapter 4, verse 26, it said, "Be angry, but sin not. Let not the sun go down on your wrath." So I'm allowing you to see what can take place and what transpire when you argue. Now, we're going to talk about our relationship too. We're going to talk about our relationship. So you allowing the sun to set. You allowing that time period to lapse, and you and your spouse not come back to a place of meeting to where y'all can talk about this disagreement that y'all had. But both of y'all now are functioning from the place of anger. And when you operate out of anger, the spirits and doors open. Because when you get to verse 27 in Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 14, it said, "Give not a place to the devil." So anger gives a place to the devil, and that door is open, and God can't be in the same house that's no longer ruled by him, because it's no longer his house. You've given that house over, and the house that is divided, eventually it will not stand. So the people that open the door will constantly be in a battle and in a debate, because each one of us want our own way. You know why divorce happens? Divorce only happens because of selfishness, because people desire to keep their own way, to do their own way, to function their own way. So divorce happens because of self-centeredness or self-righteousness and selfishness. This is why divorce normally takes place in a relationship, because people cannot get past their pain, because they can't get to the other person. So instead of them going to God, they leave the relationship. Now, we like being transparent here. And I think tonight we're going to be transparent, because you and I, we got married in 2007 in December.
You know, December.
I know. In January, we got married in January. And
I was knocked up by December.
was it December or January?
Me being pregnant?
Yeah.
That was 4 months after we got married. I was pregnant.
Were you? We got married in 2007. And little did we know what our marriage was worth. Never get married if you don't think that you won't have to do any work in that relationship, and you lose the value of that relationship because you thought that you would never have to work. And this thing keep coming back over and over in my ears, that some people that are listening to me, you and your spouse continue to argue. Y'all argue a whole bunch. Y'all can't seem to stay on the same page. Y'all argue a whole lot. He don't understand you. You don't understand. You didn't view your way. He didn't view it his way. Both of you are trying to express your point, but neither one of y'all are getting the point. What makes a marriage significant? My first question to you is, what do you think that makes marriage significant?
What makes marriage significant in my eyes is the point that the man and the woman are able to be one. And in being one, they're one on every level, naturally as well as spiritually. And to make it grow is to continue to be at one. Now, you may not see eye to eye on everything, but the whole point is to have that healthy medium, and knowing, okay, you may not like purple and I like blue, but it's okay. You know, we can go with purple sometimes, or we can go with blue sometimes. I'm just using colors because that's a safe area to be. So yes, I'm a conform my ways to yours, so you'll be pleased, and that is reciprocated. You know, like bowling. I love bowling. I can't bowl, but I love to go bowling. You may not like bowling. I'm using that as an example, but we will go bowling sometimes. You are into basketball. No, I cannot play basketball. However, I would go, play basketball with you and make myself look like a Wallen Morris, trying to play because I can't dribble. But that is the point. There's a healthy medium in everything. And doing that, you share that love for one another and you understand each other's differences. And I think that's the whole point of marriage, is being able to love someone outside of yourself and that person loving you outside of themselves and not being selfish. And when you become selfish and self-centered, like you said, that's how marriages end, because they become selfish and self-centered. It's all about me, 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 what you could do for me, what you could do, how you do it for me. And it's not about that. It's about give. I want to give this to you. I want to give this to you. And that same thing should be reciprocated.
One of the challenges that we have when we get marriage, we don't desire to serve. This is something that's never been discussed in relationships. So when it comes to marriage, see, we get these feelings and these emotions. So because of what people, we spend time with people, we communicate with people, we talk to people before marriage, but we stop serving in the relationship. So marriage, if you don't have the heart to serve, then you should never get married. Because marriage is all about servitude. It's all about serving that individual. It's all about you taking care of your responsibilities and not waiting for the other person to take care of their responsibilities. That's why I say you have to be mature when you get married, because most people think because the other person is not fulfilling their role that you stop your role. And that's a sign that they're not maturing. It's a sign that they're immature. So some people have married boys with the potential that look like men. And I think that has been the challenge in some relationships, that some relationships, they look like men until they get married, and then you find out they're boys. And some people marry girls that have the body of women. And so they go for the body, but didn't realize they weren't paying attention to what was coming out of the mind. And so this is the struggle that we have. So now once we become one, because we were thinking about the person's potential, not the person in reality. So the reality hurts when we find out that the reality hurt because you married on potential, not reality.
Absolutely.
And so that brought you a difference, that brought confusion, that brought strife, because you were thinking about future, but you were missing what you were seeing now. And God is trying to get you back to the point and back to the place that you may have married the spouse, but you married me. And sometimes in the entire process that we forget God because we made the person God. So we didn't got out of the ordinance of God. We don't want to talk to God, and we don't want to communicate to God because we've made that person God. And this is what you have to be careful with. That even if the person don't desire to talk to you, you can talk to the person that can talk to the person. Okay. I'll say that again. Even if that person don't desire to communicate with you, which is the person, you can talk to the person that created that person. As the older generation, you say, get them on the main line.
And
Tell them what you want. And I think this is the issue that we have. And sometimes we get so frustrated in the season where God have us to be patient. In James chapter 1, the Bible said, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptations.
When?
Because there's going to be a time that you're going to find. You're going to fall. In some type of tribulation. In some type of adversity. In some type of battle. And oftentimes when we go through spiritual battles, we're unaware of the battles that we go through. So let me explain this to you tonight about marriages. If your marriages are attacked, then the enemy sees the worth in it when you don't. A marriage would never be attacked spiritually. The enemy would never attack a marriage if he didn't find it being worth something. If he didn't find it being valuable. And oftentimes we don't see the value based on what doesn't work. So we stop working, not knowing that if you keep working, then everything is going to work out for your good. At some point, you're going to have some tribulation. At some point, you're going to have a trial. And that's showing you what the marriage is worth, because you will never know what the marriage is worth until a problem arises.
Absolutely.
When that problem show up, for as long as you're eating candy, cookies, and popcorn, long as he's placing roses in the bedroom and roses in your bathwater, as long as he's doing the roses, and long as you're doing the cooking, long as you're doing the cleaning, as long as y'all are being intimate, as long as y'all are communicating properly, then you don't see a problem. You don't know the strength of that relationship because you're lovey-dovey. But when the issue comes when that love persists,
Was it love or was it lust?
and that's what it is. And oftentimes we find out the depth of our love when the problem comes. Well, you really didn't love them. You love what they did. You love what they have. But you didn't love them when the problem arose. And I think this has been the challenge that we normally have when it comes to these relationships. We find out how deep our love is once a problem comes. And we find out not only how deep the love is, but we found out how much love we have for God. Because if you can walk away, you would walk away right before God made a way. And we don't have the patience to stay in it. Sometimes God ain't developing the other person. God is developing you.
Absolutely.
We're thinking, and we go to God about the other person. And you keep going to, okay. So let me give you one of my testimonies. Let me explain to you how God would talk to me. Me and my wife, at one point we didn't see eye to eye, and every time she would do something, now I told you this is rated M for mature, I would go to God. God asked me two questions. God said, "Are you the mature one?" I said, "Yes, Lord." And the Lord told me, "Act like it." He put the responsibility back on me. Lord, see, I'm getting ready to say some things tonight that's probably going to ruffle your feathers. That's the first thing that God told me. It was the first thing. The second thing that God told me when it came to my relationships, every time that something would happen that would challenge her. See, we went through so many battles in the beginning of our marriage where we both lost our jobs. My wife, I'm going to say something, she lost 2 babies in the relationships. See, it's a lot of stuff that people don't know. When attacks come, we had a church to turn their back on us. People didn't like us. Our families abandoned us. So we had all of this going on. So the enemy was using all of this interference to try to bring interference in our relationship. So issues were coming. Bills were coming. All of these things were taking place. All of these emotions and things and stuff that was happening, and we didn't understand, and we could not understand the spiritual dynamics that was behind it. We didn't know how significant the marriage was. We didn't know at that time. We did not know. And I went to God, because my wife, sometimes she would cry. Even though I can tell her and go to her, I said, "Honey, this is all about faith. Faith is the substance of things hoped for." And she didn't want to hear scripture from a preacher. "Don't come to me preaching. Let me have my moment." And I went to God. And I say, "God, every time we go through something, my wife responds this way." And God checked me. I'm thinking I'm doing something good because this is all about faith. And the Lord told me that every time she responds this way, you come to me this way. God checked me. Here I am thinking I'm doing good. And in doing good, I'm thinking I'm going to God and telling God, "Okay, God, this is what needs to happen. This is what needs to take place." And God checked me. And the last thing that God told me, the last thing he told me, I'll never forget, because my wife, she had went through so much. And God brought me to tears when I said this. I said, "Lord," I went to God and I said, "Lord, she's so broken." She was so because the stuff that she had been doing, like losing a mother at 15, losing a father at 16, I think it was. losing her father, losing her father at 16, losing her grandmother, her aunts, her uncles, her entire bloodline looked like it died off. And then she get in relationships that fail. And I told God that God said, this is the woman I want you to marry. And the second we marry, we run into these obstacles. All these things transpire and take place. And I went to God, I said, but Lord, she's so broken. And God made me cry when he said this. See, this is how God talked to me. He said, yes, she's broken, but I'm trusting you with the broken pieces. I start crying. I start shedding tears. Because God had put me in the relationship. See, and I'm trying to be, I'm trying my best to keep it on the foundation. Okay. So men, please hear me. Never get married without you having an understanding of what Christ is. I want you to hear this. You are a husband before you ever say I do. If you have a relationship with God, then you have to know what a husband is. Okay. When the Bible say, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. This is not just for preaching. It's not just for proclaiming. It's just not for you just commanding, but it says study to show yourself approved unto God. So in studying scriptures before you get married, I would advise men who are single to learn the role of what a husband is. So when you learn this role before you ever get married, see, these are one of the credentials and qualifications that you have to have in order to be a husband, that you have to study to show yourself approved unto God. You need to learn every role of a husband. Every functionality, how a husband is supposed to talk, how a husband is supposed to act, how a husband is supposed to touch, how a husband is supposed to provide. You need to learn that role. And you're studying before God. It says study to show yourself approved unto. So when you finish studying what the role of a husband is, then God gives that stamp of approval to say, now you're approved to get married, and I'll show you where your wife is. You'll know where to find her because you now fulfill the role of a husband. You must learn how to fulfill that role. So, and I'm advising men tonight that think love is superficial, that think love is all about sex.
And looks.
Yeah, and look, so that think love is about that, and it's not about that. That's not love. It is a warped perception of what love is. So, okay. See, what we call love making ain't love making. What God calls love making is intimacy. So you can't touch God. You can get in touch with God. This is what love is. The Bible says God is love. So when you have this encounter with God, then you become God. So I'm going to say something that's real strong, and I want you to hear it. The Bible said in Galatians, I think it's in chapter 5, where it said, husbands, but you have to be a husband first. Husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church and gave himself for it. So my first thing, please hear this. So Christ came for salvation. Christ came to save. Christ came not only to save, but Christ came to suffer. So if you're considering yourself a husband, then God is considering you just like Christ. That means if he's considering you to be like Christ, then God has used you as the bridge that can get your wife to the place where she's supposed to be. See, this is the dynamics that sometimes that we miss, that when it comes to the relationship, that we haven't learned this in marriage counseling. Because people don't know this dimension of when it comes to marriage. So when you sit down before your marriage counselor, because some people need to be recounseled. Some people need stuff and information to be readdressed to them. It doesn't matter if you were married for 20 years. It doesn't matter the tenure. You need some more understanding based on situations and problems that's in your life. So you need to sit down. And the husband themselves, God has called us to be tillers. You know what that means? That if there's anything in you, anything, any hurt, any pain, any confusion, any doubt, any fear, if there's anything in you, I'm the tiller. Because if hurt, pain, fear, or doubt is there, that's a root. Hear what I'm getting ready to say. Because that thing is a weed. If fear is there, doubt is there, argument, anger is there, these are weeds that can choke out your wheat. So it's our responsibilities as tillers. The word husband means tiller. It means tiller. So as a husband, my main responsibility that God gave Adam from the beginning, for him to be a tiller. So whatever's in that land, I should know how to pull up that weed. I should know how to take away anger. Watch this. And I'll give you a way to take away anger. In Proverbs chapter 15, verse 1, this is what you need to learn how to do if you're a husband. It said a soft answer, turn away wrath, but grievous words stir up anger. So how I respond to you, if I respond soft, if I respond with the love of Christ, that doggone weed, I can pull it up because I'm a tiller. I'm a tiller of that land. And not only am I a tiller because a tiller learned how to talk. Adam knew how to talk, and even though he was a tiller, he said, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. Okay, she shall be called woman. You have to get past bone of your bone and flesh of your flesh.
Bone in your bone.
Yeah. You have to get past the bone in your bone, and because it's flesh. This is Spirit Radio, so we're going to be real. I told you tonight it's rated M, it's mature. You have to get past that. Please hear this. Because what if you don't get that as a husband? Will you stop performing your duties as a husband? Will you walk around frustrated? Will you walk around hating? Watch this. And if you're not careful, what you don't get, the enemy will bring as an offering. Right when you have the problem, the enemy brings you watch this, a fake answer. So he's bringing you to try to supplement the real thing for the fake thing. And because that's been an absent, Lord Jesus, some people are struggling. I'm going to use the word with sex. Now, I said this on one of my earlier broadcasts because I truly want us to understand, please, y'all. And I'm trying to get you to understand what I'm saying, but I told you tonight you're going to have to be mature. And I know this is going to be deep. It's going to be deep in some stuff that I'm getting ready to say. Why? Tell me, how does a person lose their desire to be intimate with the person that they married? How? I'm going to let my wife give her definition, and then I'm going to come back and give you what God showed me and told me. You go right ahead.
One of the reasons, I don't know, this may be the main reason why people are losing their desire for their spouse, and it's because they feel, I've been with this person, there's something else, and they allow their eyes to see candy, and then it's like, oh, I can do this and be with my wife, and she ain't got to know. Or I can do this and be with my husband, and he doesn't have to know. And I was crazy that we're talking about this. I was discussing this same situation with a friend today, and how the devil would try to bring this, person either from the past or this new person that's, looking like candy. And, in your mind, it's like, oh, that's nice looking. Or I remember when that individual or whatever, and then the devil will bring it to you. And, maybe y'all cross paths. And in this situation, that person crossed paths with the person. and they were like, oh no, I'm not, I have been in my marriage and I'm gonna stay in my marriage, and I ain't gonna look that person way. And then sometimes the devil will try to bring them like, oh, I see you, and then they want to come and talk to you. Hey, what you been up to? And it's up to you to be the stronger person and be confirmed, be firm with it and say, yeah, how are you? I'm doing great. Don't be rude, but then be firm. I'm doing great. Yes, I'm married for 20 years or whatever it is. And like, okay, thank you. Have a great day. And walk off. And some people don't have that strength because there's an issue at home. So they feel like, well, it's at home. This is my reason for going outside. And I could throw it back in their face. If it's the woman or the man, I can throw it back in his face saying that when you treated me this way, so I went and got this person. But it's a moment in time. And in that moment in time, anything can happen. Disease, pregnancy, loss of some type of thing, that happens. And then too, not just the issues of a disease or could be somebody crazy and they harassing you and coming following you to your house like the movie we watched, and everywhere you went, that individual was there. But it's not that. All of that is peanuts. You got to face your father. Just say you close your eyes as you in the moment, and your eyes don't never wake up. You wake up on the other side of glory. You'll meet him for a second, but your home will be a fiery furnace. So is it worth you losing your soul to go outside of your marriage? It's not worth it. I'm not afraid of what my husband would do. I'm afraid of what my Lord and Savior, my God, would do to me. Forget my husband. It's God. And how can you actually go outside of the marriage, and then going outside knowing that you call yourself a man of God, knowing that you call yourself a woman of God, and then you go outside of the marriage, and then going outside the marriage, you close your eyes. And that's how I look at it, even if, I'm not looking outside of my marriage, but if the thought ever crosses my mind, I go back and tell myself, well, you're going to burn in hell. You're going to burn in hell. And then guess what? Oh, boom. That bring you like that mallet on top of the head when you're in the cartoons. That bring you back to reality. It's like, no, it's not worth it. I don't care what my husband may take me through. I don't care what my wife may take you through. You have to come to the realization and allow that mallet to hit you upside the head. You can die and go to hell. Forget everything else. AIDS, yes, AIDS is out there. That's a slow death. That's slow death. But what if you leave in the situation that you was going through, and then you have a wreck, and then guess what? You dead. That's forever. Forever, ever. You ain't coming back from that.
And 1 hour for eternity.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So that's how people of God and people of the world should look at it. Because now, this is no slight at all, but the people of the world can do the same thing. If they can go out and they sleeping with Tom, Dick, and Harry, Sheila, Bila, and Tequila. And guess what? You're going to burn in hell too. You might have already made that place your home. But if that was to happen within your marriage and you die in the moment, you have confirmed your place. Hell. Hell is forever. You think it's hot right now in Houston? Try hell. Try it.
You used that word 4 times.
Yet and still, I digress. But that's what you have to look at. Don't just look at the disease part. Don't just look at I may get pregnant, or my husband, my wife is going to catch me. Your father has caught you. And in your father catching you, guess what? That's a price that you have to pay. And that's something that we all should look at. It's like, that's a price that I'm not willing to pay. I don't care who you are. You can be Marge Chestnut. I have a love for the Chestnut. Or Michael B. Jordan. He's short, but he's still cute. But however, I'm not going to lust after Michael B. Jordan and lust after Denzel Washington, lust after Morris Chestnut and get myself caught up. Yes, they look nice, but I ain't trying to lust. I ain't gonna think about, ooh, what if he walked by? If he walked by, guess what? I'm gonna shake his hand and be like, oh, great, and keep on going. I'm not gonna slip my number to him and say, meet me in the crossroads. No.
Yeah, you got a crossroad.
Yeah, you definitely got a crossroad. And your crossroad is a burning fire. So, but that's what I want to say on that.
And this is, I mean, she explained it real great from the natural perspective. But in this segment, we're not just going to give you the natural, we're going to give you the spiritual side as well, because eyes become your appetite.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the challenge with eyes becoming appetite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jesus said, if a man so happened to look lustfully upon a woman,
Mm-hmm.
he's already committed the
The
adultery.
sin, right?
The adultery has been committed just by a look, because you looked lustfully.
Mm-hmm.
You thought it was an innocent look, and you imagine you doing something to that individual. And God said, you've already committed the act in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And committing the act in your mind is where he saw it, where it was established. Because wherever the mind goes, the body will eventually follow.
Mm-hmm.
It will eventually follow. So the spiritual dynamics is this. You know, one of the most profound things I think God told me about people not being intimate in a relationship is what's attacked.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. We can be attacked, and there's two things that causes sex drives: libido and testosterone. Libido is with women. Testosterone is with men. So these very areas of our life can decrease. But they can be decreased, or they can be attacked when a person tell you, I just don't feel like it.
To actually correct you, libido is for both. It's estrogen and testosterone.
Well, estrogen.
Yes.
Estrogen and testosterone. So these
Couldn't
are
let you
areas.
make it.
Okay, see that? See, my wife is, she just, thank God for correction.
Amen.
So these are areas that can be attacked spiritually. So where people can be sick spiritually, and these are not physical attacks, these are spiritual attacks, and God will show us that all throughout scriptures, how demons can possess somebody's body. They can make them deaf, they can make them dumb, they can make them blind. These are instances to where these things can transpire and take place in a person's life. When they lose their desire, they didn't lose their desire, they may be under attack. Mm-hmm. And you can take it the wrong way to say, well, you just lost your interest in me, and the enemy will use someone to come into your life, to be a part of your life, and not make an advancement, just be there when you need somebody to talk to. Mm-hmm. And this is how it initiates. This is the initiation. Communication is the initiation, because communication is conducive to intimacy. Mm-hmm. I told you, intimacy is not touching, it's you talking. And when you talk, it's not touch. You can get in touch with that individual. That individual can say something to make you think or imagine what they'll do to you, or what they'll say to you, or how they'll treat you. You don't know that. They'll just communicate with you and talk to you and just smile at you and just converse with you and sit down and eat with you. And you don't know that that relationship is under attack. Mm-hmm. And these are areas where you must be very careful. One way you kill pride in a relationship, I'm going to show you tonight that if you can't kill this area of your life, is pride. I'm going to teach you something tonight. And I'm going to test you tonight. And I'm going to see if you can do this. And if you cannot do this, then pride is there. Stubbornness is there. Selfish is there. Self-centeredness is there. And Satan is there. There is a devil in your life if you can't surrender your life. No marriage would be successful if you don't die. Mm-hmm. You must die to yourself. I guess for some reason we just thought Christ said that we have to die daily. I guess we thought that was just for Christ and going to work. No, when you die, everything in your life that's associated with it, we should die daily. That means surrender and submitting your mind, your mouth, your body. Everything is submitted unto that order, that you can't say a certain thing, you can't respond a certain way, and you can't act a certain way when you're dead. When you have surrendered. The test tonight for you, because you and your spouse are not seeing eye to eye. And you can be right and they can be wrong. Watch the test. The test is, can you go out and buy your wife flowers even though she was wrong? Can you take her out to eat even though she was wrong and you were right? Can you go out and give her the things that she likes when you're wrong, when she's wrong and you're right? Now, vice versa. You know what your husband like. Even though he's mad at you, can you still come in the bedroom with a negligee? Okay.
The new thing is the grandma dress.
Oh, the grandma dress, okay. Can you still rub your husband's back even though he stabbed you in the back? I'm testing you now. I'm testing you. I'm testing you. And if you cannot do it, then pride is there. Stubbornness is there. Self-centeredness is there, because you'll hold your ground and you're losing ground to the enemy, because you will allow the marriage to go into divorce because you wanted your way and they went their way. You won the battle but lost the war. And this has been the issue, that when it comes to marriage, because you will feel that it ain't worth it. Watch this. But you can go to a workplace where you've been mistreated, not valued, not appreciated. They change your schedule. They change your time. They overwork you. They have people to laugh at you, and they isolate you. They ostracize you. They criticize you. But you'll keep going back to that workplace because you'll feel like it's worth it. Why? Because you know at the end of that week, at the end of the 2 weeks, and you're working out seeing results. So you're going to work 1 week, my God, today, and you get paid every 2 weeks. Some people get paid once a month. So you're going to work an entire month with an expectation you're going to get rewarded at the end of the month. But you can't do the same thing for your marriage. You can't go through something with your marriage, and you can't work because you ain't going to work to sit. You're going to work to work. So you can't work in your marriage when it look like things don't work. This is when you know that you are not mature yet. So the enemy has taken that entire house. Now the kids don't act right. And the mama don't want to talk to the kids. The daddy don't want to talk to the kids. So when they say, go and tell your mama, go and ask your mama. But go and ask your daddy. And they're showing it because they don't want to communicate. So now the children are involved in the mess.
Yep.
The children are involved in the mess, and nobody's getting the message. And this is why people walk away and say, it's not worth it. But here's the thing. When you married him, it was worth it.
Absolutely.
See, we didn't understand when we got married what we'd have to go through. And that was new to me. I knew what we would become, but I didn't know what the worth that we had to God and the enemy. I didn't know the worth. I didn't know that we would be sitting here today, 17 years later, when people said it wouldn't last 6 months. It wouldn't last 6 months. They would state that, and 17 years later, here God is, and everything that we went through, didn't know that it was birthing what we had in us. Didn't know that it was going to release our real worth. So, because we're sitting here at a radio station we own, didn't realize that the enemy was the prince of the power of the air, but he didn't know that we were going to be releasing stuff over the airways so we can heal other people's marriage based on what we win in our marriage. We didn't know the significance of our worth, that the kingdom of darkness would attack us in the beginning stages, because he knew what stage we would manifest in. Didn't know that we'd become pastor and first lady. Didn't know that we would have a church. Didn't know that we would have a television network. Didn't know that we would heal marriage. Didn't know that we would marry people. We didn't know. And our attacks only revealed the worth that the enemy had. We had worth in this relationship.
That was the purpose of the attacks.
And that's what I'm saying. So most people don't know their significance by their attack. So they stop working because they think that what's taking place is no longer working, so they can't see the value of their worth. So they quit in the season of being patient. And I told you earlier in James chapter 1, count it all joy when you fall into diverse temptation. Knowing this, so you have to know. This is where your understanding have to come in. Knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. So God is designed to bring you into a season where you don't have to pray that prayer no more. That you're not going to want anything. But the problem we have is we think that God is like Amazon. We think that we can have a couple of clicks and all of a sudden it show up at our door. So we're treating God because we want things to be delivered to us. And we don't want to wait for nothing. So we got everything in our life at the click of a button. Don't worry, I can hit YouTube, I can hit Facebook, I can change my channel with my phone. So we got all of this technology, and we expect God to do things like we're accustomed to. We're expecting God to do everything quick. But if he does it quick, then you won't be developed. You'll never be developed if he does something quick. It's not like he can't, but your patience haven't been developed. Your love haven't been developed. Your understanding haven't been developed. So because there's no development, he can't give you that answer yet. You're still saying like Adam, it was that woman you gave me. And God said, if you say it was that woman I gave you, this is why I'm not separating her from you. I'm giving that woman back to you. There is no divorce. Hear me, y'all.
What came out of him was given back to him.
And that's it. And oftentimes in these relationships, we leave the winter season knowing that spring is coming. Knowing that summer is coming. We leave in winter and didn't understand that y'all were trees. The only thing that survives the winter are trees.
Or they leave in the summertime when everything is burning hot, not knowing that fall is coming, when you have cooler weather and everything that was burning up will fall off because it's going to come back in the spring. It's like, why? If you chose to be with that individual, you said that you love that individual, then love is endurance. You have to work for it. It's not something that's going to come easy. And was that, was I knowledgeable about that in the beginning? No, but it has to grow. That's something. Was I a girl when I got married? Yes, but I had to develop as a woman. I had to learn that I cannot allow anything to manipulate me like Eve got manipulated by the serpent. I cannot allow anything to wayward me and to go to a place where I know what is familiar or comfortable. I have to fight and go to the wilderness and allow God to tempt me just as he did with Jesus. He put Jesus in the wilderness to tempt him. Now, are you going to go to the point where you like, yeah, I'm going to fall back and go back to being wayward? Or am I going to endure it? Allow the punishment of the devil, so I think, to get to the place where I need to be in God and in the relationship as well. Just like our relationship, we got to, in the beginning, we went through a lot. We were in the valley for a long time. It took a lot to climb out of that valley in our relationship, and it took almost 10 years. And in that development, in that almost 10 years, And now we're at the top. We're in a relationship where our communication is supreme. Yes, do we have disagreements? Yes, but guess what? We're not going to go to bed with the disagreement. I'm going to slap him on the butt. He going to slap me on the butt. Then, we come back together. It's like, okay, yeah, I didn't like you for what you said, and you may not like what I said. However, we're not going to be at war with one another, because we know that we have to stay in communication and in as one, so our family can grow. It's just not our two children. It's the whole church. That is our family. So if we are not the perfect example for them, how is it that we're going to bring up and develop other people who are in marriage, are desiring to be married, and we can't get it together? We cannot counsel those who desire it, and we're not together. Is that two-faced or double-minded or whatever it is?
Both.
So we cannot be that. We have to understand that, yes, you go through a valley, but is it worth it climbing that mountain? Is it worth it getting your knees, scuffed up a little bit, messing up your toenail, fingernail polish? Is it worth it? Yes. And the reason why it's worth it is because God is there with you. If you fall, guess what? He is your safety net. He's going to be there for you and is going to encourage you and push you to keep going. And once you get to the top, you're going to be like, oh, my God, yes, this feels good. But it's just a plateau. It's not the top, because there's going to be another issue that you're going to go through and another test that you're going to go through and another battle that you have to go through. And what you have to do then, pull yourself off that plateau and guess what? Keep climbing and keep climbing. And then you're going to get to another plateau. And it's going to be a continuous battle that you have to go through in your relationships. But yes, it is beneficial for you. It is, people like, oh, I've been with this person for 20 years. And yes, you're willing to give up 20 years to go for something that's 1 minute? Is it worth it? No, it's not worth it. Do you want to go back to the mindset when you were single and be like, oh, I'm got all these people and I'm, doing things that I know I should not do, and you call yourself a man or a woman of God, and here you go being a round-away boy, a round-away girl all over again? Is it worth it? No, it's not. Your soul salvation is not worth it. Your peace of mind is not worth it. Naturally or spiritually, you have to look at that, because you're going to be looking at yourself again. It's like, look, woe is me. And it's like, yeah, woe is you, because you put yourself there. No one else did it but you. That's my perspective of it. So
let me explain this to you, and then we're going to try to get out of here. I want to say this to you because I can hear people saying, I'm tired. I've been going through this for the last 13 years, 14 years.
5 years, 2 years.
15, 20. I just been, it's just too much for me to bear. Don't look like there's going to be any changes. And it goes back to, you don't know the worth of that relationship. Now, I'm going to explain something to you from a spiritual dynamic. If you've been going through it for 2 years, 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, 13 years, 13, the number I hear. You've been going through this for 13 years. I want you to see something. You don't know how significant that relationship is because the enemy haven't given up for 13 years. He's been consistent for 13 years trying to destroy this relationship. For 13 years. He has been consistent step after step after step. For 13, he's showing you his consistency and his endurance. And you don't understand that he's been consistent for 13 years, but you don't even see your own endurance being able to endure it for 13 years. And you're ready to get out so Satan can win. You don't see your own strength, and you don't know what it's worth because you don't see it working. But it's been working. This is why the enemy is trying to tear it down for 13 years. The attack shows you that it's worth it. It's worth it. There's nothing that you can do that God won't reward you for. Watch. Even if you hold your tongue. The Bible said when you can hold your tongue, you will preserve your own life.
Good God Almighty.
The Bible said if you sow in tears, if you've been crying in the relationship, God comes back to say, you don't understand, I bottle the tears. But if you sow in tears, you're going to reap joy. You don't understand your hardship, but you don't understand that I've been doing this and I've been doing everything right and I've been sowing into this and I've been doing this for my wife and I've been doing this for my husband. But the Bible said that what a man sowed, that shall he also reap. So that thing you've been sowing sowing love, you've been sowing peace. You've been doing everything that you can do. Don't you think that your spouse may not reward you, but there's a rewarder that's coming, and he's called the Lord of the harvest. So you're getting ready to get a harvest because what you sown right, even though it was going wrong.
My Lord.
If you learn to practice the things that was introduced tonight, then your whole perspective, see, once your perspective change, your reality will. It's how you view things, how you see things, how you understand things. Paul said, when I was a child, he was a grown man. He said, I spake as one. I understood as one. I thought as one. He said, but when I became a man, I put all that childish things away. What were the childish things? Speaking, thinking, responding, understanding. These were the childish things. Once he understood that when I became a man, so it's not just your age that validates you as a man. You can't just use your biology or what we use in biology to say that we're men because we were born with testicles and all of that. Testosterone. Testicles too, so. We can't use that as an example because you can't use biology when it comes to God. You cannot use that. And any interference that you have with parents shows that you're not mature. The first sign of maturity for men, that a man leaves his mother and father and cleave to his wife. It's the first sign of maturity. It's the first sign that you're not disowning them. You're not disowning your parents, but now you can become a parent. This is what this is about. If your family is involved in your life, then you would never have the life that God intended, because your family could be your demise. While they are still in their marriage, you'll be divorced. You have to learn the first sign is leave and cleave. The word cleave means to stick hard to, stick close to. So when you get your wife, you have to stick hard, stay close, stay connected. You have to stay with one mind, one heart, and one spirit. See, this is what you have to learn to do. Leave and cleave. So when your mother tell you, if I was you, I wouldn't take it. Well, mama, thank God that you're not me because I can take it. He built me to take it.
Absolutely.
This is my assignment. And marriage, please hear me, is an assignment. Okay. 7:13. Give me 2 minutes. Marriage
25.
is an assignment.
Absolutely.
I know you have your desires, you have your pleasures, you have your thoughts, what you think what marriage is. But marriage is an assignment. In the first marriage, God laid out the dossier with Adam. He said, it is not good that man should be alone. So one of the prerequisites for marriage and a wife is that the man wouldn't be alone. And God said, I will make him a helper. So one of the wife responsibilities is not just her hooking up with her husband, but now to help. But what could they help? What is she helping for? What did God give Adam? That was an assignment. Watch this. And in the assignment, intimacy came, communication came, favor came, money came, resources came, dominion and authority came. But that was all in the assignment that God gave him. So don't be so fixated on your desires and miss the assignment. And don't get married without knowing what the assignment is. Because God gave Adam clear instructions. I want you to take dominion over the fish of the sea, the fowl of the air, and over everything that creepeth upon the earth. Now everything must be fruitful and multiply. You must be fruitful, multiply, and replenish and subdue. This was the assignment, and Eve had to help Adam with that assignment to walk in dominion and to walk in authority. It was the assignment. But in the assignment, everything was included in it. Like when you go on vacation, when you go on cruises, one of the packages that they offer is all inclusive. So you don't have to go out and buy a drink package, a food package, a room package. No, when you buy an all-inclusive package, everything is included. The trips, when you get off the boat, the ships, wherever, everything is included in that package. So when God created marriage, everything was all-inclusive. It was included in it. Love was imparted into it. Love was a part of it. It was included. Everything was included. If you find you and your spouse are at odds, could it be that you don't know your assignment? That you are so fixated on your desires, and your desires has superseded your assignment because you didn't know the assignment. If you knew how important the assignment was, you wouldn't be fixated on your desires because you didn't know that once you fulfill the assignment, that every desire that you need that's going unmet would be fulfilled, because God will make sure that the desires is met because you stay focused on the assignment. So listen, I'm 1 minute over. Thank Jesus. We pray that something was said tonight that would help and solidify your issues, your problems, and your marriage. Please, I'm going to say this last thing. You know, Adam never had a problem. Eve never had an issue. But the second they became unified, they didn't even know what the serpent was. They didn't even know that Satan was there. So anytime you get married, Satan stands and watches and slithers around and talk with a forked tongue because he knows and understands the significance behind the marriage. No person will ever get married and come into a covenant with God and won't see a serpent. He'll come. He'll come lying. He'll come deceiving. And people in marriage, just like Adam and Eve, you have to be careful to touch stuff that's unforbidden, that's forbidden. Because she went to a tree, but the fruit was forbidden to touch. You have to be careful in presenting things that are poison, that's not forbidden, but it look good to the eye. You have to be careful of touching things that are forbidden when God has offered you more fruit. Listen, we thank you for tuning in tonight on our broadcast on Spirit Radio and the Vision Channel on our broadcast tonight called Covenant Keepers. I'll see you next week, me, Apostle Terrence Greer, and
Lady Nikki Greer
on Covenant Keepers. You guys have a great and safe week. you don't know what the head means, the head means direction. See, I ain't got time to go into it, so I'm gonna cut a lot of it off. You have to understand what the head is. Therefore, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be subject unto their own husbands. Watch this, in everything. Now, I'm going to say something, and it's going to be strong, so I want you to hear what I'm saying. It says, in everything. In everything. Everything is expressing. In everything. Be subject unto your husband. So let the wives be to their own husbands in everything. As Christ is subject unto, as the church is subject unto Christ, so let the wives be subject unto her husbands in everything. Everything.